as I take this drive out to this area, you can see that there are power lines and people are hooked up to what's called the grid. The grid, when we talk about the grid, we are talking about the place where you get your electricity. Most Americans are connected to the grid, and we need those power lines. Electricity, we need that electricity. And this is a fitting drive to show you that's the electrical poles for the grid. But as you know, friends, me and Mr. Hilder, we live off the grid, which means we're not connected to those power lines. We're not connected to anything. It's not just about not getting our electricity from a public utility source. It also means being independent from many things, like public water, public sewer. When you go off the grid, you are disconnecting from those dependent entities, and you are creating a independent place to lay your head. Now this week we had one, and on this beautiful drive, and we're gonna be walking too, snowshoeing in fact, we are going to be talking about the top 3 things you need, 100% you need, in order to go off grid and do it successfully. Hands down. Okay, friends, top 3 things to help ensure that you will succeed at off-grid living. Number 1, and this is hard, but what I would say is choosing the right homestead. And what I mean is it starts with the land and location. Now, we made our choice using a lot of different criteria. And number 1, we wanted 4 seasons. We wanted winter, but we didn't want brutal winter. No, didn't want the brutality of winter. We wanted mild winters. We wanted to be able to have a long growing season. We wanted to be able to have a summer that wasn't hot and humid like it was back in Wisconsin. And that lended to finding the right region of the country, which led us to the Pacific Northwest. When you're looking for that right location, then you also want to look at, as part of that location, is how safe is it where you're moving? Where's the nearest metropolitan area? If the SHTF really did hit the fan, would people be able to come up to your homestead and pillage you? That is all important for location. Part of location, obviously, is not being so remote that you don't have access to what you need. Healthcare, the fire department, ambulance, stores. If you're building from scratch, how are you going to get your lumber out to that location? We think about off-grid, and I think there's a lot of storytelling going on and fairy tales. To go off-grid, do so because they do want to be more independent. They want to be more free from the enslavement of society. They're not running away. They just want to be more control of their life. And that really does start with breaking off of the grid and that dependency. And the first thing you need to look at is location. Number 2, and I have talked about this before, water, 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 water. I know I don't have to pound into anybody's head the importance of water, but it is amazing when you go on YouTube how you will see people mess water up. They will buy homesteads with no water, and then they think they're going to haul the water. That's not sustainability. You're dependent on a vehicle, a truck, so therefore you're dependent on making sure that it runs. Then you're dependent on another source. Again, That's the grid. If you're going someplace to get your water, like a municipality, I don't care how free it is or how cheap it is, you just put yourself in a dependent position. And we see those mistakes being made and made again. If you go anywhere in our neighborhood, there are people that unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, have to haul water. The reason why I say this, unfortunately, is I've talked to them. They don't enjoy hauling water, but they inherited their homesteads, or it's been in their family forever. There is no water there. In order for them to sustain, they haul in water, and they don't like it. They can tell you stories about how dependent they are on the city water. And the city water, even though we're in the wilderness here, we have terrible city. When you look for location, be smart and look for water. If there's not water on that piece of property, I don't care how beautiful it is, how cheap the property is, you pass it by. You know what? Patience is a virtue. There is a time for every season. If God wants you to have a piece of property and to live off grid, He will assist in finding you that place. Okay, and number 3. We got location, we got water. And you know what? What I would really say is making sure that you are debt-free. But if you're not debt-free, that you have all your finances in order. You know, and that's above having all the skill in the world and you know, being prepared with your firewood and having gardening skills and hunting skills. Money, 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 money. When you go off-grid, you will still need some source of residual income. Some source. There's just no way around it. Or you should have a reserve of cash. Do not move off the grid without a reserve in cash. Don't do it. And I've said this before. If it takes taking out a loan to obtain your dream, do it, but be reasonable about it. Get the best loan possible and make sure that you are in a financial position to sustain that loan, which means you may have to work outside of the house for a while. But really, have your P's and Q's in order with your finances. Have money in the bank. Get all your credit cards paid off. If you have to take out a loan, make sure you are in a positive balance sheet on your financial ledger. Do not go into unnecessary debt just to live your dream, because you will bury yourself. And don't think that you can go off grid and not work at all. You know, all right, top 3. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And you know what? It's just straight talk. Straight talk from Starry, because I want you to succeed in, maybe it's not just going off grid, but it's just starting a homestead, buying that first place where you're going to be able to have chickens and rabbits and have a garden and be removed from the city and the life that you want to get away from. You want to get out of the grind. You want to raise your kids in a better school, or you want to homeschool, whatever it is. I'm going to tell you just the way it is, and I'm always here to help. Always here to help. All right, God bless, friends, and another day in Starry's off-grid life.